Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to what used to be called MVP NBA Talk Show and has been renamed to Backcourt Press NBA Talk Show.
Yep.
I am Hunter Metnick. Alongside me is my co-host, Zach Vinci. Say hello.
What's up, everyone?
And so the NBA has been fun, as it always is. We decided to change our name, by the way. For any of the viewers that don't know, we started an Instagram page and a Twitter account, both called the Backcourt Press. We thought press was funny because, this is something used in the NBA, and press can stand for, news and everything going on. So came up with this.
Can you tell whose idea that was?
Yeah. So we created an Instagram. So anyone watching, please follow the Backcourt at Backcourt Press on Instagram, with the new font and everything, and Backcourt Press on Twitter. And obviously follow us on our social medias, my YouTube at Hunter Metnick and my Twitter at Hunter Metnick. You got anything else to say before we get right into it?
No. Today I'll be taking the reins on this one. Normally Hunter is the one leading the talk, and then he's asking me all the questions. But we figured we'd switch it around this time. And I have set up today's main topic, which is overreaction or not, where we'll be discussing a lot of things I've been seeing in the media and on the internet, and whether or not those are truly overreactions or if they're facts. So we will see today. Hunter is ready to answer some of my questions.
It'll be fun. It'll be definitely interesting.
Yeah, let's get to it. So the first one, I've got 10 of these lined up. A lot of this, what I've been seeing, is Kevin Durant is better now than before his Achilles injury. Keep in mind, Kevin Durant this season has been absolutely incredible, averaging almost 31 points per game on 52, 45, 87 shooting splits. He's been incredible so far. So I want to hear your take on that.
This is coming from a Warrior fan. He got us a big championship, actually 2 big championships for our franchise, and so it's tough because the way he's shooting right now. I mean, he's on a team with 2 other super ball dominant superstars. Which if we're gonna compare, well, I'd probably say the fit of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson is better than the fit of Kyrie Irving and James Harden around him. But these are 3 on-ball players and need the ball in their hands, and next thing you know, he's putting up these numbers, which are MVP caliber numbers. And if it wasn't for some other guys dominating the league, he'd probably be number 1 in MVP racing or in the MVP race. For me, the answer to this is we're going to have to wait and see. Because, you could put all the numbers up in the regular season that you want, but when it comes to playoffs, that Achilles injury could go back and show it's one of the hardest injuries to get through in all of sports. I mean, we rarely see any people who battle an Achilles injury come back and be 100%. And listen, so far he's been 100%. He's been almost better than 100%. But Kevin Durant was tied for the number 1 option on that Warriors team. And if he could be the number 1 option on the Nets team that actually wins the championship over LeBron James again, I'd have to say if he puts up these regular season numbers for the rest of the season, I'd have to say he might just be better than what he was before. It's tight though. I mean, he's still such an incredible player.
Offensively, he hasn't looked like he's lost a step whatsoever. I will say defensively, I think it's slightly noticeable.
Well, the whole Nets team is
guys.
Very noticeable.
He's not staying with guys quite as much. I think that might just be it could be he's in a much worse defensive scheme now as team defense than with the Warriors were, because they always had great team defense on those squads. I think he's lost a little bit of a step defensively, but offensively he might be even better than he was before. We'll see in the playoffs for sure. Going along with that same line of thinking with Kevin Durant and the Nets, we've come to our next overreaction or not.
Which I think this leads right into it as well.
Here we go. My next overreaction is the Nets cannot win the championship because their lack of defense or depth. Is that an overreaction or is that a fact?
I don't know about not win the championship, but it's definitely the biggest liability on this team. They went up against the worst team in the NBA last night, which was the Washington Wizards, and they let up 149 points to them in no overtime. Overtime. the Wizards aren't good defensively, and they're not winning games. So I'm gonna not talk about the Wizards defense either. Let's just say Timothy Carabo, you got to make that layup next time and win the Nets that game. But that's beside the point. Their defense, man, is so bad. I saw this one statistic that said that after the James Harden trade, they've been the best offensive team in NBA history, but the worst defensive team in NBA history. And I think that lack of defense, especially down low, and they're really relying on like guys like DeAndre Jordan to step up and be to be like what Jared Allen brought to them, which was Jared Allen was averaging 19, like 20 and 12 before before getting traded. And next thing, and he was also like a guy that no one wanted to go up against in the paint. He was such a dominant force for them. And they're really missing out on that. And I thought Kevin Durant would take a little bit of a step defensively and try and guard the bigger guys, even though he's obviously not the biggest, strongest guy, but he has the length and all the length in the world to guard really all 5 positions. I kind of expected him to take a little bit of a jump defensively going back to the last question, but he didn't. And so the Lakers will kill them. And the reason I say that as of right now, I think they will, because the Lakers have the second best defense in the NBA and LeBron James and Anthony Davis offensively. And once that Nets team goes up against them, I think if any team's going to be able to shut the Nets offense down, it's the Lakers. And I don't think the Nets are going to be able to do anything defensively against the Lakers. So I don't think it'll stop them from getting to the finals. I still have the Nets making the finals this year. Unless Kemba Walker comes back, is playing incredibly, incredibly healthy, or the Bucks can figure and fire Mike Budenholzer. We'll get to that on possibly another podcast. Right now, I still have the Nets coming out of the East, but I don't see them beating any of the top 2 teams in the West right now, with that being the Clippers and the Lakers.
Yeah. A stat that I found that I think is pretty interesting is there have only been 3 teams since 1980 that have won the championship without having a top 10 defense. Those teams are as follows: the 1995 Rockets, the 2001 Lakers, and the 2018 Warriors. The Nets are currently outside the top 20 in defense, which is not really looking too good for them. But on the flip side, you look at those teams that have done it before. The Warriors had Durant, who is also on this Nets team, along with Curry and Klay Thompson. The Lakers had Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, highlighting that team, and the Rockets had Clyde Drexler and a prime Hakeem Olajuwon. The Nets have James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant. So
Amir has the Celtics over the Nets, which is, the East right now. I mean, we're forgetting about teams like the Sixers and the Raptors always play really well in the playoffs if they can make it, and even the reigning champions, the Heat. The East is really up for grabs right now, but I'm not going to bet against that 3 that they have right now, at least yet.
You're talking to the wrong guy here, though. I'm a Sixers fan. I don't want to see Boston anywhere near that finals. But yeah, they've looked good so far.
One last thing about the Nets. I think a key part of that team is going to be Bruce Brown. He was such an underrated signing for this team, and he comes in and plays alongside James Harden. James Harden will run the 1, or Kyrie Irving, and Kyrie Irving will run the 1. And he brings such a great defensive presence that this team doesn't have. Joe Harris has been an underrated defender. And I'm not saying he's a good defender, but I feel like the whole Nets team gets a lot of hate, and I don't think it's because of mainly one player. Kyrie Irving, man, cannot guard anything right now. I think he's the biggest liability on this team, and that's with DeAndre Jordan. I just think Kyrie can't really guard anyone. And so if Bruce Brown can get more minutes and some of those guys off the bench, like TLC, who, although right now he's been a sharpshooter for this Nets team, he's always been a solid defensive player. So I could see guys like TLC and Bruce Brown really making big contributions for this team, for the Nets team, if they end up going to the NBA Finals. Yeah.
I'm gonna say that this is, in the end, is an overreaction. I don't think history is on the Nets side at all when you're looking at defensive teams and championships. But with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden, I don't think you can rule them out yet just because of that.
Exactly. Also, Jeff Green. Jeff Green's been playing incredible for them recently.
Jeff Green's
I'm telling you, they needed that signing.
Yes. Staying in the Eastern Conference, but moving on to a different team. My next overreaction, number 3, Overreaction or facts? The Philadelphia 76ers are true contenders in the Eastern Conference. Currently, they sit in first place at 15-6, and they've been knocking off some top teams recently. What are your thoughts on that?
Facts.
I
know you're a big Sixers fan. The reason I say that is because the past 3 games at least, Ben Simmons was getting a lot of hate to start the season in the way he was playing. Ben Simmons is playing aggressive. If Ben Simmons plays aggressive, also real quick, Ziad had a quick comment. Quickly as Rookie of the Year. I think we're going to talk about the Knicks.
On here.
The Knicks are on this list, so wait for us to get about the Knicks. But big fans of Emmanuel quickly.
Yeah.
No, if Ben Simmons can play aggressive and play like the number 2 option on this team, which right now Tobias Harris is, and I think that's without question, Tobias Harris is the number 2 option offensively. But Ben Simmons was driving and kicking, and he finds open teammates like incredibly. And when you're passing out to guys like Seth Curry and Danny Green, they're bound to get hot at some points. I know Danny Green's been, I think last night he was like 0 for 4 on threes. But the Ben Simmons is playing very aggressive, and that's saying nothing about Joel Embiid, who is top 3, possibly number 1 or top 2, and not number 2 in MVP race right now.
Yep.
And last night they beat a very, very good Indiana Pacers team without Joel Embiid, and so I'm very high on the Sixers. I think Seth Curry is a player that they are so happy that they got. He's going to make a huge impact, and don't count out a trade for a guy that previously was on that team a couple years ago, and JJ Redick, because I've been seeing some trade rumors, and they get JJ Redick to come off the bench. Hopefully they don't give up a Matisse Thybulle, because Matisse Thybulle he looks lengthier than Ben Simmons on the defensive end at some point. It's incredible. But I'm gonna have to say that Philly's gonna be a team that no one wants to go up against if Joel Embiid's gonna put up 40 and 12 on you every night.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts? You're a big Sixers fan.
Watching that Lakers team, that Lakers game against the Sixers the other night, that convinced me that the Sixers are going to be up there. I think they're gonna. I don't think they have the star power to compete with Brooklyn, but this is a very well put together team. They have literally everything you would ask for from a championship contender. They have a dominant star player in Joel Embiid, who has been top 5 player in the league this year.
Incredible.
Probably number 1 MVP candidate. Ben Simmons, who is top 5 in VORP, which is value over replacement player. One of my favorite advanced statistics. He's been incredible defensively, and he's done a great job of leading the offense this year, even though his scoring has not jumped at all. But Tobias Harris has made up for that as the second option offensively. He's had a great scoring season, been very efficient. I'm loving this team so far. Curry's been shooting the ball well. Danny Green stepped it up lately. It's a very good point. Embiid's going to be pretty dominant against a lot of these top Eastern Conference teams, particularly Brooklyn and Boston, who have both likely won't really have an answer for Embiid.
Tristan Thompson and DeAndre Jordan. I don't think so.
Yeah. The Sixers have been amazing this year. I couldn't be happier. Definitely a top Eastern Conference team, but I don't think it's for sure to say that they're the number 1 favorites right now with all the star power that Brooklyn has and how good Boston's been looking so far now that everyone's finally healthy. A lot of tough teams out east. You can't even forget about Milwaukee. Giannis has always done a pretty good job against Embiid. Miami will get there pretty soon if they can sneak into the playoffs. But yeah, I think it's facts that they've got that they're definitely contenders, but it's still a long way to go.
Yeah, Evan here, by the way, he's the head coxswain of the men's Temple heavyweight team from Philly. Very, very big 76ers fan, and I'll get him on here eventually to talk about the Sixers more with you, because both of you guys are Sixers fans. But no, trust me, that Sixers team, they're not going to be a team any of those top Eastern Conference teams. And if JJ Redick can get traded, possibly to a team like the Sixers, that's even scarier.
Could be replace Furkan in that lineup. Highlight Ziad's most recent comment though, because that's going to lead into our next overreaction or not, which we're heading down to the Western Conference for a little bit. My next overreaction is Is this overreaction or facts? The Jazz are on the same level as the Clippers and the Lakers out west. Currently, their record puts them in between the two of them in the Western Conference. Those are the top three teams right now.
I'm gonna have to go with overreaction. I'm really sorry to all Utah Jazz fans, and I'm not. I've never been a big guy on the Utah Jazz this year, but I've loved what I've seen out of them. Last week on our podcast, I had Mike Conley and I believe Bojan Bogdanovic on some of the most underrated players in the NBA right now.
Yeah.
But the problem that I have with Utah is they're heavily relying on Jordan Clarkson. And Jordan Clarkson so far is sixth man of the year, in my personal opinion. He's come off the bench and been their second leading scorer, right above, I believe, Mike Conley, who's third. And Jordan Clarkson, he's always been a guy who starts off very, very strong, but he's streaky. And this whole Utah Jazz team, Mike Conley didn't have a good year last year. I believe they're number one or at least top three in 3-pointers made this season. They've been the top 3-point shooting team.
Number one in 3-point makes and number one in 3-point percentage.
Yes, but the thing is, unless you have Steph Curry and Klay Thompson on your team, it is very hard to rely on 3-point shots.
Yes.
They're not always going to be falling. We've seen that with so many different teams where they could. We'll see. I think we'll see it. The Knicks were the greatest 3-point shooting team to start the season, and the next thing you know, they fell off a cliff, and they're still good, but they're not the 3-point shooting team that a lot of people that they were in the first couple games. And Utah, as Ziad says right here, they don't have the star power. I think Donovan Mitchell's an incredible player. He's not on the level of Kawhi, AD, LeBron, or Paul George right now. And so for that sole reason, I'd have to put the Clippers and the Lakers above them, even possible other teams like the Phoenix Suns. I think just when it comes to playoffs, and obviously I think the Denver Nuggets as well. Those are four teams I have ahead of them still to this minute in the West, just for the pure fact that, Donovan Mitchell really performed last year, but I don't see these 3-point shots continuing to fall. And Rudy Gobert is not going to be a 20-20 guy every night. We've noticed that. We've known that for a very long time. He's an overpaid player. He brings incredible production to that team in rebounding and defense. But when it comes to playoff time, I'll bet on LeBron and Kawhi any day over. I'm going to bet for Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell. So as of right now, I think they're going to be a great regular season team. Quinn Snyder, to me, is one of the top coaches in the NBA. He's adapted so many teams to just fit the NBA the way the present day NBA is. But I'm gonna take the other top teams that I mentioned over Utah right now.
Yeah, I would agree that that's an overreaction, that the Jazz are on the same level as some of those other teams. I think another thing that we've always seen in the past is Rudy Gobert's defensive impact loses a lot of value in the playoffs. Yes. And just watching the Jazz Nuggets game yesterday, Nikola Jokic torched Gobert that entire game. I mean, this is a guy who's been the top 3 defensive player in the league for probably the last 3 or 4 seasons now.
33 points.
Jokic made him look useless out there. So I think if the Jazz face a team that's well built to play them, like the Nuggets, the Jazz could be in some serious trouble. And as you mentioned, 3-point shooting can flip on a dime. So far, they're the top 3-point shooting team in the league, but that changes as the wind blows. So a couple cold shooting nights and the Jazz could be right back down there with, I think, some of the other teams that they belong with in the 4 to 6 range out west.
Yeah, and Royce O'Neal is in their starting 5, and no offense to Royce O'Neal, but running the 4 next to Rudy Gobert, he's not a 4. He's not a starting caliber player in the NBA right now. He's hitting threes. I think I have it right here. He's averaging 8 and 6. But if you're going to go up against 2 big men like AD and Montrezl Harrell in the playoffs, Serge Ibaka in the playoffs, that those stretch 4 kind of guys that will bring Rudy Gobert to the perimeter, you're gonna be really banking on Royce O'Neal and Bojan Bogdanovic and Joe Ingles to guard the paint when Rudy Gobert's forced to guard a guy like Jokic. So
or even Anthony Davis.
I don't see it right now. Yeah, and AD. So I don't see it right now. Sorry, Utah fans.
I agree. All right, so let's move on to our next one. Take it back out east and kind of go back to talking about the Sixers.
Okay.
Overreaction or not? Because I've seen a lot of this since the Sixers-Lakers game. Joel Embiid is better than Anthony Davis. Overreaction or facts?
It's an overreaction, and yeah, this shouldn't be even discussed in my opinion. Listen, Joel Embiid is a top 2 center in the NBA, and he's not one. I'm sorry, but Anthony Davis, although he has not been able to win on his own, Joel Embiid has not won on his own, but I would say that the 76ers team is better than the Pelicans team was when AD was there. And so, you give AD Ben Simmons, and I'd like to see that team play together as well. But Anthony Davis has he's showed up in clutch moments, especially even for that Lakers team. There were many times where I think Zach and I were discussing that AD could have easily won that Finals MVP, and I don't think anyone could have been that mad about it. Obviously, LeBron for his legacy won it, but Anthony Davis was the second best player in that NBA Finals. I'd even possibly say over Jimmy Butler. That's tight to me though. Jimmy Butler was incredible.
Jimmy Butler was the best player in that NBA Finals.
Ooh, hot take, but
for another day.
Yeah, but no, Anthony Davis, the way he can he's not playing like Anthony Davis to start the season, and he's still averaging like 23 and 10 or so. And Joel Embiid's having an incredible season. If Joel Embiid could do this for a couple more seasons, then I think people will start talking, especially if the Sixers can really make it out of the East. And am I glitching? Okay, good. On my screen, I was glitching a little bit, but no, Anthony Davis averaging 23. Yeah, exactly what I said. 22 and 9 at least, in only 32 minutes a night. But we've seen Anthony Davis show up in the playoffs, and so far Joel Embiid's gotten locked up by Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka. And Al Horford. So I'm sorry about that. But right now, I'd have to give the edge to Anthony Davis for just the impact he has. And we haven't seen Joel show up as much in the playoffs as we have Anthony Davis. So I'd like to see what the Sixers can do this season. But if we're going rankings, I'm going to take Anthony Davis right now and all time, obviously, over him.
I agree with some of what you said, and I disagree with some of what you said. Overall, I would say it's an overreaction. I don't think Embiid has proven himself to be better than Anthony Davis right now. I think it's a lot closer than people believe.
I do agree with that.
And I
agree with that.
I think all it takes, I think you give it 5-6 months, and I think Embiid could be ahead of him. I think all it takes is if Embiid leads the Sixers out of the East this year, I think it's no question. I think if you just look at I think you really, as great as Anthony Davis played in last year's playoffs, he was a second option. LeBron James was the number one man on that team, and LeBron James was leading that team, right? So if you look at what Anthony Davis has done as the first option in his career, he's won one playoff series.
Yeah,
one playoff series.
Then got killed by Steph Curry.
Which Embiid had already won more of on his own. I will agree. The Sixers probably had better teams than AD ever had in New Orleans. Probably, but not. Last year's playoff Sixers team that got swept by Boston. Obviously, they had nobody. They were without Ben Simmons. They were worse than anything New Orleans had. Right. So I will. Right now, I will say Anthony Davis has proven himself to be ahead of Embiid, but I think all it takes is 1 year and one good playoff run for Embiid to put himself back ahead of Davis. Now, if Anthony Davis goes on and wins another championship this year, then that might clog things up again. But for now, I think it's pretty close because I think you put Embiid on that Lakers team and you put Davis on the Sixers, and that Lakers team is still winning the championship last year.
Okay,
so that's my opinion. That's my opinion.
So okay, so you say Joel Embiid is about 5 to 6 months away of success to overcome Anthony Davis.
Yes.
So where's Jokic? Because Jokic right now is the best center in the NBA. I'd have to say that. He proved it in the bubble.
I think Jokic is one playoff run away from being near Dirk Nowitzki. People put Dirk Nowitzki on this pedestal for one playoff run, right? Dirk did a lot of amazing things throughout his career, but if you take away that one playoff run, no one's mentioning Dirk's name in the top 5 power forwards of all time. He's not even mentioned in the top 50 players of all time. That one playoff run, some people put him in the top 20. So I think
I had him 15.
Jokic does that. You're talking. Look at Hakeem Olajuwon, right? He did it twice. I mean, just looking at big man standards and what it takes to bring one team to a championship as a big man. I personally think it's more impressive because I think big men have less control over the game as guards and forwards do. Both especially offensively and also to a certain degree defensively too. So I personally will always find it way more impressive when a center is able to lead their team and be the main player. And Hakeem Olajuwon did it twice. He's a top 10 player of all time, right?
Yes.
Undisputed. Dirk did it once. People call him top 20. If Embiid or Jokic do it just once with the current rosters they have, where they are the clear number one guy, and they don't have any other superstars on their team, I tell you, you have no idea what that's going to do for their legacy. Both Embiid and Jokic, either one of them do it, they're top 25, 30 players of all time.
Now, another quick one. This is such a fun topic to talk about with all these big men being right around each other. If Joel Embiid and Jokic meet each other in the finals this year, beating the Kevin Durant-led Brooklyn Nets, the LeBron James Lakers, and the Clippers-led Kawhi-led Clippers, would you put both of them over Anthony Davis then?
If the Sixers and the Nuggets play in the finals, you're saying?
Yes. This is tough.
I'll definitely
right around each other.
I'll definitely put whoever wins the championship. Whoever wins that championship, I think would definitely be ahead of AD.
Okay.
I mean, if Jokic, yeah, I gotta say yeah, because if Jokic himself takes down the Lakers with LeBron and Anthony Davis, I don't think there's any way you can put Anthony Davis ahead of him.
I agree.
If Embiid does it out east, yeah. I mean, I don't think Anthony Davis is in another stratosphere of. If you're looking at talent, Jokic, Embiid, and Anthony Davis, I think are all right around each other.
Yes.
To me, the only thing separating Anthony Davis from the other two is consistent success, and then obviously the playoff run. But I don't think it's as far. Sorry, that was a really long-winded answer, but I don't think it's as far off as people believe.
I love to hear that because I was thinking the same exact thing as you. Anthony Davis, listen, LeBron leaves and Anthony Davis can lead them to a Western Conference Finals in the Lakers team, then it'd be an entirely different story. Anthony Davis has a one on his own right now. And although they have the aggressive Ben Simmons and maybe bubble Jamal Murray again, I'm gonna agree with you. I'll take Embiid and Jokic over, at least present, not on the all-time list yet, but present I will.
Yeah, it all depends on what they do the rest of the season. If the Sixers go to the playoffs and do what they always do, where they lose in the first or second round, then obviously Embiid is nothing. But I think it all depends on what he does this year, and if he keeps playing at the level he's playing at.
That was fun.
That was a long answer, but moving on to our next overreaction or facts.
Yep.
I realize I have a lot more of these in the East than in the West, so we'll keep it in the East a little bit longer.
Okay.
Number 5. Where are we on number 5? We're on 1, 2, 3. Yes. No, we're on number 6. Okay, number 6. The Miami Heat were a fluke last year in the playoffs. Overreaction or facts? They're currently sitting at 13th in the Eastern Conference, not having a very good year this year after winning 2 games against the Lakers in the championship last year and being the second best team in the playoffs. Were they a fluke, yes or no?
I think we're both going to have the same answer here. It was not an overreaction.
You think it's facts?
Oh, never mind. No. I don't think it's facts. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I completely.
So you say overreaction.
No, I say that is an overreaction. My apologies. Because Jimmy Butler has barely played this entire season. And Jimmy Butler on any team makes them an incredible team. I mean, we saw Jimmy Butler's performance last year. They've relied on Bam Adebayo to grow very fast offensively this year. Mm-hmm. And the players they have around them right now, Tyler Hero's been out for a while throughout this season. They've been relying on valuable minutes from guys like Gabe Vincent, who I believe is like an undrafted player that was in the starting lineup for a while, even over Dragic. Precious Achiuwa, who I really like on the Miami Heat team, but he's a rookie. They've relied on him to play valuable minutes as the backup big man. I mean, I'm looking over here. Max Struss, a shooting guard, is getting 15 minutes a game this season. And a guy like Avery Bradley, who I don't think really anyone looked into as more of a playoff spark off the bench for this team. Is playing upwards of 25 minutes a game and averaging 10 points. No, it's not. It's an overreaction. Jeez, I keep forgetting it. But Jimmy Butler is going to be Jimmy Butler. If they don't make the playoffs, I'd be incredibly shocked. With this team, they don't make the playoffs after last year. Then yes, it's an overreaction, 100%. But what that team did in the playoffs last year, Eric Spoelstra was the top NBA head coach of the league. I mean, we could all agree on that. The way he coached them against top teams like the Bucks and the Raptors were just, or the Celtics, was just remarkable. He knew how to play defense on them, and this team's a very defensive team. And when you don't have Jimmy Butler out there, and you're relying on guys like Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero to guard without Jimmy Butler there, it's not going to work out. So I think that's been a main reason was Jimmy Butler's absence throughout the beginning of the season. But I believe they're 7-13 just right now, and Jimmy Butler came back and they're on like a 1-2 game win streak. They're actually playing right now against the Charlotte Hornets.
They are currently they're 7-12, and I was going to say 4-3 when Jimmy Butler plays, which means they are. Hold on, let me do math there. 4-9 when he doesn't play, which shows they're a completely different team.
They're a completely different team without Jimmy Butler, and Bam Adebayo's not there yet to be a number one option. He is an incredible center. Yeah, he's an incredible.
I'm doing the math in my head still.
You're good. No, Bam's an incredible player. I think we both have him in our top 5 centers in the NBA. And he was the number 2 option on a championship team, and no one can discredit that. And so as of right now, I'm going to put it out there that is an overreaction. And the Miami Heat are going to be a team that the Bucks, the Nets, who can't guard for life, but will get locked up at some points, I believe, by a good defensive scheme team. Those teams aren't going to want to go up against that Miami Heat, especially the 76ers who let Jimmy Butler has some history with. And so Miami Heat, it's an overreaction. They're going to be a good team this year.
I agree that it's an overreaction, but they got to start winning some games.
Yes.
Because they don't make the playoffs. I mean, that's a tough one. It's a tough one to call it not a fluke if they don't make the playoffs this year. Personally, I don't think it's a fluke. I mean, this is a team that just oblierated Giannis's Bucks, right? Who were, if it was a regular pay season, we're a 60-win team. The Tatum Celtics, I wouldn't say they obliterated them the same way they did the Giannis's Bucks, but they had a pretty good grip on that series through 6 games. And then they were the only team to give LeBron's Lakers anything remotely considering a challenge. Yeah, they were the only team to win more than 1 game against them. So I got to give a lot of credit to that Heat team that I don't think they're getting their due. They did lose Jay Crowder, which I think was a huge piece of that squad in their run last year, who shot the 3 ball really well, played great defense, exactly. But I don't think they're going to repeat that success this year. This is a team that Brooklyn and all of them, you're right. They're not going to want to see this squad as a 7 or 8 seed in the East. Yeah. And Jimmy Butler, great player. But I just think the East has improved enough that I think some of these teams are a little bit too built that the Heat won't be able to surprise them like they did last year. That's just my opinion, though. I definitely think this is a playoff caliber squad, and I think that they'll compete. They'll compete, and it's not a team that people would want to see.
Yeah, one last thing before we get off the Miami Heat. Here are some teams that they're behind right now in the playoff run. The Orlando Magic. They're way better than the Orlando Magic. The Chicago Bulls. Yeah. I've seen the Chicago Bulls blow like 4 20-point leads this season. I'm so sorry, Chicago fans. They're not. They're better than the Chicago Bulls. The New York Knicks. The Knicks are playing great, but I'll take Jimmy Butler to lead them and Duncan Robinson over Julius Randle and
over
RJ Barrett.
Emmanuel quickly.
Exactly. The Charlotte Hornets, who they're playing right now and beating. The Hornets are still young. They got off to a hot start led by Gordon Hayward. I think Jimmy Butler's a little bit of a better player than Gordon Hayward. And then even teams like the Cavs and the Raptors, the Raptors look really bad. I think the Heat could sweep the Raptors easily. I think we'll get to the Raptors. But no, those teams, I still see them being a 6 to 8 seed as of right now. I don't think they're better than the top 5. top 5 teams right now in the Pacers, Celtics, Bucks, Nets, and Sixers.
Yeah.
But you cannot bet against Jimmy Butler ever. So I'm not gonna be the one to do it, and I'm gonna have the Miami Heat make them playoffs.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. Well, you just mentioned the Raptors, so I figure number 7 overreaction or facts. We'll talk about the Raptors.
Beautiful.
Pascal Siakam cannot be the number 1 option on a successful playoff team. Is that an overreaction or is that facts? Currently, he's his numbers are down this year pretty significantly from last year. Facts.
I think any NBA fan, even Toronto Raptor fan, can see Pascal Siakam cannot be a number 1 option on a winning team, and he's not right now as they're sitting at 8-12. And I think in the playoffs, if they do end up making the playoffs, which I think they're going to be very on the edge of making the playoffs, I could see teams like the Cavaliers and Atlanta and, maybe even the Charlotte Hornets or the New York Knicks, if they're actually this competitive, they're going to be better teams than Toronto Raptors. And if they do make the playoffs, Kyle Lowry is going to be the clear-cut number 1 option for this team. I think Kyle Lowry's proven himself more of an option than Pascal Siakam has. And, Siakam's not a player that, listen, he won Most Improved a lot, and he was one of the most loved players in the NBA for like 3 years, and then randomly people started hating on him, and you can see why people are hating on him.
Juju Smith-Schuster.
Oh, thank God we don't do an NFL podcast, or else we'll get into that. Maybe we will do an NFL podcast one day, but
maybe we will.
You're so correct on that, but no, Pascal. He's not a great offensive talent. Let's just be honest with it. He's got one move. He's not a great passer, not a great rebounder for his position, even though I think on the year he's averaging just under 20 and I believe 8. I could check that for you real quick though. Averaging 19.6 and 8 rebounds. Okay, so I was pretty spot on with that. Defensively, he's a liability. I don't want Pascal Siakam guarding my best player. I've never seen him as that great of a defender. I think players like Kawhi Leonard, Kyle Lowry, and Serge Ibaka around him made him look like a better defender than he was because he was guarding one of their worst options. They're going to really rely on Fred VanVleet to carry this team if they make him to the playoffs, and Kyle Lowry. But Pascal Siakam is not going to be – if they make it to the playoffs, there is no way that this team makes it past any of those top other teams that I just mentioned, just for the pure fact that Pascal Siakam's not what people thought he would become. And also, real quick, what's up, Amorphic? Just wanted to say hello. Thank you for joining.
Number 1 DJ right there.
Exactly, but that's my thoughts on Pascal. I think he's a little overhyped right now, and he's not playing great, and until he can prove himself offensively, this team's not a playoff team.
Yeah, I will point out that he's had probably his 2 best games of the season the last 2 nights. In his last 2 games, he's averaging 31 points per game and 7 rebounds. But that's just 2 games, so so everyone has hot games every once in a while. I agree. No, wait. What was the original quote? Pascal Siakam cannot be. So it's facts. It's facts. I agree that Siakam cannot be the number 1 option on a playoff team. I do think he's getting a little too much hate, though. I want to put a little bit of respect on his. I want to put a little bit of respect on his name.
Hi, Jordan.
What's up, Jordan? I do want to put a little bit of respect on his name, though, because he gets a lot of hate for the spin move and not being a consistent offensive player, especially when teams figure out how to defend him. Yes. But he's a fantastic second option. I think he deserves a little bit more credit defensively. I think he plays really well within Nick Nurse's defensive scheme.
Because of Nick Nurse.
Watch the games. I guess you could give a little Nick Nurse some credit on that, but he's great versatility, and he can guard pretty much anyone 1 through 5. He struggles a little bit more on the guards, but I would still trust him guarding a guard over a lot of the other big men in the league. He's a good player. He's not a first option on a successful playoff team, though. That said, I think the Raptors are better than a lot of the weaker teams in the East, and they will definitely be in the playoffs by the time
I hope
ends.
so.
I would honestly be more surprised about the Raptors missing the playoffs than the Heat. I think the Heat are more dangerous once it comes to playoff time, but I just think this Raptors squad is well built enough and have had a tough enough schedule so far. And guys just haven't really been playing well that once they pick it up, they'll definitely make the playoffs. But I don't see them winning a playoff series this year.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Also,
second best Cameroonian player
behind MVP candidate. No, real quick, another thing about the Raptors. Stop starting Aaron Baines and start Chris Boucher.
Chris Boucher,
listen, Chris Boucher defensively is the paint presence that Pascal Siakam doesn't have. You said it. Pascal can guard 1 through 5, but he's not great at guarding the big men of the team. Chris Boucher is averaging 2 blocks on the season, and no one wants to guard him. So if I'm Nick Nurse, maybe when it comes playoff time or later in the season, Chris Boucher has to be in that starting lineup next to Pascal Siakam. Yeah. And that's something that I'd really like a lot more than what they're running right now.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
But Nick Nurse is a fantastic coach, so I think he'll do it eventually.
Nick Nurse is a great coach. Sorry, Celtics fans. He's better coach than Brad Stevens. I'll say it now. I'll say it forever.
Ooh, that's interesting.
I just really don't like Brad Stevens. Sorry. Number 8, our next overreaction or facts. Let's finally get to it, Ziad. The Knicks are a playoff team. Is that overreaction or is that facts? They're currently the number 1 defensive team in the league right now. Emmanuel Quickley's been balling. Julius Randle's been balling. RJ Barrett's been balling. They're sitting around 500 right now. They would be the 8th seed in the playoffs. What do you got? Are they a playoff team? Will they keep this up, or are they going to fall apart?
Listen, I've never been a big Tom Thibodeau fan for the pure fact that he plays Julius Randle 45 minutes a night and RJ Barrett 46 minutes a night. They're going to get tired eventually, and as of right now, the teams that are not in the playoffs that we actually just talked about, the 2 main ones, which is the Miami Heat and the Toronto Raptors, I'm going to take both of those teams over New York Knicks. I think I'll even take the Cleveland Cavaliers over the New York Knicks. Just because I think not coaching, the Cavs coach, they've had a little bit of Ziad's back. Look, he's here for the New York Knicks talk.
We're talking about the Knicks, Ziad.
You said earlier, Emmanuel Quickley is a player, and he is. If they can insert him into the starting lineup, I think that changes a lot because I think Julius Randle is leading this team in points, rebounds, and assists, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he is.
Geez, yeah, hey, all-star Julius Randle.
Yeah, put him on your all-star ballot. I've put him on every single one of my all-star ballots so far. Julius Randle deserves it more than anyone. Keep going.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. But Emmanuel Quickley is a point guard who can pass the ball and he can create shots for other guys. As Ziad just said, steal of the draft. I completely agree. And listen, Julius Randle's averaging 23, 11, and 6.
Yeah.
He's looking better than Pascal Siakam has. So I'm gonna give the edge right now for the Knicks as an 8-9 seed. He's been
over the Raptors.
No. I'm gonna put I have Raptors and Heat as 6 and 7 right now.
Raptors, Heat, and Knicks. Okay, so you have the Knicks over the Cavs then.
Yes, I'm gonna they're gonna be 8-9 seed fighting for that playoff.
And the Hawks.
Oh shoot! Ooh, let's hope the Raptors.
There's a lot of good teams out east.
There are. Mitchell Robinson's playing well. He's being that defensive anchor that they want him to be. Listen, New York built a culture there where they brought in players that want to win and they want to be successful. They want to change the look of the New York Knicks. And honestly, so far this season, they really have. Everyone was saying they're going to be the joke of the season. I think we had them in our bottom 4 in preseason power rankings.
I had them 30.
Jeez, yeah, this is rough. But no, players like Alec Burks looks like he can't miss at some points, and it's crazy to me that he just comes in and shoots threes and he'll knock them down. They get Austin Rivers at some points is looking like an all-star.
I agree.
I'll say it.
I agree.
Now, please bench Elfrid Payton. He's getting way too many minutes for his productivity, and you need to give guys like Austin Rivers, who's a hot hand offensively, and Emmanuel Quickley, who's a good playmaking, and God, his floater game is just incredible. I love floaters, and Emmanuel Quickley it's so smooth with it. Don't count the Knicks out. Listen, people might be overreacting to their 9-12 start, but no, they're a team that wants to win, and I don't see Julius Randle backing down. He's been given the keys to this offense, and until RJ Barrett starts shooting unofficially like he did last year, this team's going to be contending for a playoff team. So I forget what the overreaction was, if it's the Knicks are bad or the Knicks are good, but the Knicks are
I
good.
said, are they a playoff team? So you said you think it's facts
I
that they're a
think it's
playoff team.
right. It's right there. It's they're at least. I'm going to say facts that they're contending for a playoff spot. I don't know if they're a
Okay.
clear-cut playoff team because it's New York, and I'm sorry, Ziad, but it is New York.
You said pretty much everything I was gonna say. I would say overreaction, just not because I dislike the Knicks, just because I think the other teams behind them are slightly more talented in Toronto and Miami, and I don't think they're good enough to jump teams like Atlanta and Indiana and them. So I think the Knicks will be right on the outside looking in the 9 or 10. But this franchise, as we talked about last week, with trending up, this is a franchise on the up right now. And that's really all I got to say. I don't want to say bad stuff about the Knicks just because I'm a believer in the Knicks franchise right now. I think this is the first time in about the last 5 years that they're on the way up. So no, I don't think quite this year, but they're getting there.
Yeah, no. Shout out to the Knicks front office. They finally, besides drafting Obi Toppin, they finally did something good for this franchise. And I'm happy to see it. You know, being both of us being from New York, we got Knicks fans surrounding us, and I don't like seeing them all sad when the Knicks go 20 and 62. So shout out to New York.
Yep. All right. Moving on. Overreaction or not, number 9. This one is about a specific player.
Okay.
LaMelo Ball is going to be a superstar. Overreaction or facts? What do you think?
Facts.
Facts?
We both were very, very high on LaMelo going into the draft. And I think we're very still high on him right now, unless your thoughts might have changed. Youngest player to put up a triple-double. Him playing alongside Terry Rozier, yes, he's very careless with the ball. I will say that he's averaging more turnovers than you would want your rookie point guard to be averaging. But he's a rookie point guard, and you're giving him the keys to run your offense whenever he is in the game. So he has put Charlotte Hornets on the map. Without him, right? If they had drafted Anthony Edwards instead of LaMelo Ball, I guarantee they're not getting as much media press as they are. Not even close.
No chance.
And, yeah, LaMelo's been playing fantastic. He looks like he can just spread the ball around and become one of the best. I think he can become one of the best playmaking guards in the NBA at some point in his career. And his shot is falling. He's not shooting the ball efficiently, but he's making threes. He's making deep threes. He's very confident. That's one thing I like about him. Probably the best thing I like about him. He's just confident when he's on the floor, surrounded by guys like Miles Bridges, Malik Monk, PJ Washington. This team's on the uprise with so many young players, and LaMelo Ball's fun. He's a fun player to watch, and he's doing everything right except for the turnovers. And James Borrego not starting him, he says all this stuff about the turnovers. He's a rookie point guard. You got to cut him some slack a little bit. But I think he has potential to be a solid defensive player because they're good. I think their shooting guard position will be the position that will guard their main guy when he goes for like the off shooting guard. But no, I like LaMelo Ball. I think he has all the pieces to be a superstar someday in this league.
Quick interruption. Heat Hornets, speaking of which, just went end of regulation, going to overtime.
Really?
Malik Monk has 34 points. Just throwing that out there. LaMelo's got 12, 6, and 5.
In his first start?
In the background. Yes, in his first ever start. I agree with you. I think LaMelo's going to be a superstar, just looking at some numbers. Number 3 in points per game among rookies. Number 2 in rebounds. Number 1 in assists. Number 1 in steals. And number 2 in efficiency. You can't really go wrong with those numbers. And just the eye test. He passes more than any other rookie that I've seen this year. I mean, you just watch him. You can tell this guy, he's got everything in his game. The vision, the ability to run an offense, the athleticism, scoring the ball, and even the shooting's a little streaky, but it's there sometimes. If he picks up the defense, man, gets a little bit older, gets a little stronger. This guy could be the next Magic Johnson. I know everyone's been saying that about tall point guards. People have been saying that about tall point guards for years. I know a lot of people said it with Ben Simmons and everything, but if everything goes right for LaMelo, I think that is his peak. I think that is his peak. It could be a Magic Johnson kind of player. But
that's
yeah, I agree. I think it's facts.
I actually just turned the game on, so if you ever see me looking this way, I am watching the game because it does look like to be a good game. You know, they're two teams competing in the same division for the playoffs right now. So, and Gordon Hayward's been playing great for the Hornets. Let me just throw that out there.
Gordon Hayward's been fantastic.
Number one option on the team. A lot of people were doubting him, but he is playing well. But no, I'm high on LaMelo Ball. I think his playmaking ability is incredible, and you pretty much said what the finishing touches to LaMelo Ball. So that's a great superstar in the making. Hopefully,
yes. Final overreaction or facts. We'll head back out west. I just realized that these were heavily Eastern Conference leaning, but we'll head back out west for the final one. And this one's about a specific team who isn't doing as well as some people, namely me, predicted they would. Right now, the Dallas Mavericks are 8-12. Like the Heat, are 13th in the West. Are the Mavericks in serious danger? The statement: the Dallas Mavericks are in serious danger of missing the playoffs. Is that an overreaction or is that a fact?
Honestly, this is kind of close for me. I think that we expected them to be a lot better than they were, in the pure fact that I think we all saw them as a top 4 seed. I don't see them being better than a 6 seed right now. I'm still gonna say that them not making the playoffs is an overreaction. If that was the
overreaction would say that an overreaction would be saying that they're not in serious danger of making the playoffs.
They should make the playoffs. If you're gonna be under Luka Doncic and have Kristaps Porzingis running the 5, you should make the playoffs. But I think it's really going to come down to the players around them, like Dorian Finney-Smith, Tim Hardaway Jr., Jalen Brunson. These players really got to step up their game because Luka's nearly averaging. I mean, he's averaging incredible numbers, as I think everyone expected him to be. If they were winning games, they'd be in the playoff run, averaging 27, 9, and 9. I mean, for his third year, this is LeBron. This is what LeBron did in his 7th, 8th season in the league, and Luka's doing it already. Kristaps didn't play a lot of the beginning of the season. He's only played 9 games out of their 20 games played so far. Which Josh Richardson's only played 11 games. Dorian Finney-Smith, not a big name, but he brings very valuable minutes on the defensive side to this team, and he's barely played. Right now, I'm going to say that that's a little bit of an overreaction. Luka's going to carry this team to the playoffs, and I hate to say this, but the Warriors are not a better team than them. That's hard coming from me because Steph Curry's having an MVP year. Also, teams like the Blazers, the Spurs, and I mean they're worse right now than the Thunder and the Kings. The Thunder are gonna start losing games eventually. I'm sorry, Thunder fans. I'm sorry, Will Hoffman.
Everyone's been saying that for 2 years.
I know. Listen, but they don't have Chris Paul this year, so I'm gonna take a step back. Sacramento Kings. Listen, De'Aaron Fox. They've been good, but the Mavericks are an overall better team. They made the 7th seed last year. Didn't really add anyone except for Josh Richardson, and we thought Josh Richardson was going to be a better fit than Seth Curry, and so far it's not really looking like it. But the Dallas Mavericks should be a playoff team, and they're probably going to be that 7, 6, 8 seed and go up against a team like the Nuggets, Clippers, and Lakers again. And Luka's going to give them problems. He's nearly averaging a 30-point triple-double. If they don't make the playoffs, they have some. Mark Cuban has some serious things to talk about with his franchise. Got anything else to say about them?
I agree. I agree that is an overreaction overall. I just want to take a look at their schedule for a quick second because that's the one thing that I want to point to and say that's no reaction. Yes. They're 8-12, right? And like you said, Porzingis has missed more than half of their games since he's come back. Their last 8 games, including the game tonight, has been against teams with winning records. That schedule goes Indiana, San Antonio, Houston, Denver, Utah, Phoenix. That's a tough schedule. Very tough schedule. They've won only 2 of those games, so they've been struggling a little bit. But once they go back to playing a little bit of an easier schedule, I mean, they've only played 8 of their 21 games this year against teams with a losing record. So they've had a pretty brutal schedule. Give them a little bit of time. Let Porzingis adjust. Let Luka continue to do what he's doing. I think this team I don't think this team will be in any danger of missing the playoffs come February and March. We're in February, sorry. Come March and April. If I'm so used to normal
February
season.
1st, we can say that.
Yeah, but overall, yeah, I think that's an overreaction. I trust in Luka Doncic.
Me too. So yeah, the
So
Mavericks.
that ends overreactions or facts. But since
Beautiful.
we still have some time left, we've got I got 5 underreactions listed
Okay.
here, which feels weird saying because I don't think I've ever said that word before. But
I know.
these
I was looking up
underreactions,
1 word or 2 word.
yeah, these underreactions are just really just stats, things I've noticed, stuff I've been looking at when I've been looking at the league, and really seeing if people should take more notice of this stuff or if it's really not a big deal. And since we really leaned heavily on the Eastern Conference and overreactions, I just realized all 5 of these are from the Western Conference. So we'll be talking a lot of Western Conference right now.
Beautiful.
The first underreaction will be De'Aaron Fox. In his last 9 games, is averaging 25 points and 7 assists. They are 4-5 in those games, so around 500. Should De'Aaron Fox be getting more media attention as a true superstar, true top point guard in this league?
I wouldn't go to true top point guard yet. He's probably right outside my top 8-ish, probably right there at the end of the top 10.
Yeah.
But man, he is such a good player. They extended him this offseason. They gave him the keys to run the offense, and he has. I think we both had teams like the Pelicans and even the Mavericks better than the Sacramento Kings. And Luke Walton's still the terrible coach that he is. I'm sorry, fire Luke Walton. But no, De'Aaron Fox averaging 25 and 7 in those last 9 games is remarkable. His growth, I think, is what everyone wanted Lonzo Ball to be coming out of that draft, and De'Aaron Fox has been that and better. He's taking this Kings team that without him, I would like to see where this Kings team is without him because they'd probably be possibly 0-19. But no, De'Aaron Fox, he needs to be talked about more in the media. I know he had his like high career game with like I think it was a 44-point game in some point in those 9 games. 42. Close, but he had a huge game and he finally got media attention, and the next thing you know, it disappeared the next day.
Gone.
Exactly.
Even
So yes,
30 in the game after.
Yeah, exactly. The Sacramento Kings should not be getting media attention except for their Instagram page. If you want to follow any Instagram pages, follow the Sacramento Kings Instagram page.
Yes,
they are funny. They've got all the memes in the world, and they are fun to like follow. So
they realize that their franchise is garbage, so they rag on their own franchise.
Yeah, like this. I would say underreaction for De'Aaron Fox, but not for the Kings in general because they're not going to be anywhere near a playoff team. Yeah. But De'Aaron Fox needs the media attention that a guy like who's getting? A guy like if we're going to say it, Luka Doncic. He's the number 1 option on the team with very similar numbers. Or a very similar record. Yeah. So don't give him Luka Doncic because he's averaging a 27-point triple-double. But he's carrying Luka's carrying the Mavericks the exact same way that De'Aaron Fox is carrying the Kings right now. So talk about De'Aaron Fox. Any team would want him, especially a team like the Lakers, Clippers, Jazz. All those teams will want him on their team. But talk about De'Aaron Fox.
A comparison that I want to make that I just throw around just because it's interesting. I like these what if scenarios, right?
Yeah.
De'Aaron Fox and Jamal Murray switch teams. De'Aaron Fox has. We compare those 2 players the last couple of years. In the regular season, De'Aaron Fox has consistently been a better player than Jamal Murray in the regular season. Yes. Jamal Murray has that incredible bubble, and
he's been in the playoffs.
In the playoffs, he's had his opportunity. He did everything he could have with that opportunity. No disrespect to him. He's come back down to earth this season. I'm just theorizing, is Jamal Murray that much better than De'Aaron Fox as the media would have you believe, or has Fox just not gotten the opportunity to produce? You see what I'm getting at here? This is why,
that's tough.
Yeah. This is not against Jamal Murray at all. This is more of for Fox.
Yes. I would say that the teams would be very, very similar to where they are right now. I think Jamal Murray would be averaging upwards of 30 on the Sacramento Kings. You know why? Because
I think that's pushing it.
The reason I say that is because we see Jamal Murray taking really bad shots for the Denver Nuggets. Let's be honest. And he's not as much of a playmaker as De'Aaron Fox is. So that's why I think
Luke
Jamal Murray
Walton.
goes into a team like the Kings and he's just chucking up shots. And so I could see him averaging 25 plus. What were you gonna say?
I don't think Luke Walton would. I don't think Luke Walton would let him. I think Luke Walton would restrict him, so he wouldn't.
Luke Walton's not doing anything. So I'm not. No.
Yeah. But I do it. I ragged on the Kings enough last podcast, if you remember.
Yes.
So I don't want to go after them much more again this time.
That's tough.
But I mean, yeah, get De'Aaron Fox out of Sacramento, and I think his career has a completely different story.
Yeah.
He is so talented, and it's just being wasted there. It's being wasted there because they haven't made the playoffs. They haven't made the playoffs in like a century. So I mean, De'Aaron Fox has really gotta get out of there because I appreciate his loyalty, but they've been a bottom 5 team every year, and he's putting up good numbers, and he's running that team the best I've seen a point guard can. I mean, you just look at it's the definition of a good point guard running a bad team. It doesn't have to do with him. It really doesn't. So I got to get him out of there. I've been saying that since his Kentucky days.
Yeah, you put him on a team like the Pelicans right now. They are so much better than 7-11.
Oh yeah,
they are a playoff team in my opinion.
Sure.
For sure. You replace him with I guess you could say Jamal Murray. And I think that the Nuggets are regular season team. They're better. Playoff team, they're not. But honestly, we don't know that because we've never seen De'Aaron Fox in the playoffs. So that'd be interesting. I'd love to see Sacramento do something. I think they're looking in the right direction with Tyrese Halliburton. Final play minutes, and Marvin Bagley is actually healthy. I'm so sorry for mentioning Marvin Bagley ever, but it seems like we've seen trade rumors about every single Sacramento Kings player in the past couple of years, whether it be Buddy Hield, De'Aaron Fox, Marvin Bagley, even guys like Rashawn Holmes has been thrown in to be a backup center on some teams. The Kings franchise.
I don't mean to be rude, but Marvin Bagley is about as useful as a box of rocks at this point in his career. I don't know why anyone would want to trade for Marvin Bagley. I think he's going to go down as like one of the worst number 2 picks of all time.
What's he averaging? He's averaging 13 and 8 right now. It's pretty bad.
He doesn't pass the eye test. That's what I'll tell you. He does not pass the eye test at all. Moving on because I don't need to rag on Marvin Bagley at all.
De'Aaron Fox
that came out of left field.
Give De'Aaron Fox more media attention. That's how we're gonna.
This is what I was gonna say. De'Aaron Fox to me is like Devin Booker 2 years ago, right?
Yes.
Like, give him 2 years from now, because we still haven't seen Devin Booker in the playoffs, right? Like, give Fox 2 years, and hopefully he'll be at the level where Devin Booker's at today. That's how I'm gonna end it because I really like Fox.
I like it.
Moving on to underreaction number 2. We talked about this team a lot last week, so I feel like this will be pretty quick. The Memphis Grizzlies are the 5th seed in the West, and Ja is averaging 22 and 8 on 54% from the field. They're finally playing again. I know they had a lot of games postponed due to COVID, but they're back playing again, and they won their first game back already. Like I said, 5th seed in the West. Do the Grizzlies deserve more hype to be this high, or do you think that they're just
Real quick, Dad?
We talked about Utah in the overreactions section. You missed it.
You missed the Utah. Listen, Utah makes the playoffs and they win the championship. You can discredit a lot of the stuff we say, I guess, because gosh, that'd be incredible for them. But we talked about Utah, so I'm sorry, Dad. They're an overreaction. But the Memphis Grizzlies, John Morant is not getting enough media attention, but the Memphis Grizzlies should not be getting media attention. That's how I look at it. That they've played 14 games. There's other teams behind them that have played 20. A lot can happen in 4 to 6 games that they haven't done. They're not a playoff team right now. They don't have Triple J, and they just don't have. The teams behind them right now is a Chris Paul, Devin Booker led Suns, a Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum led Trailblazers, a Steph Curry and Draymond Green. I can't say Kelly Oubre led Warriors.
Andrew Wiggins led. Man's been balling. Give him some credit.
Yes, I will give Andrew Wiggins credit. San Antonio Spurs, who we say are on the uprise. Houston Rockets have been great. I think we'll get into them a little later. The Thunder. Oh, Yeah, these are teams behind them that like those 5 teams that I just mentioned. I think they're all better than the Memphis Grizzlies without Triple J.
You were just naming teams off, and then you got to OKC, and you're like, wait, they're not better than Memphis. I got to stop.
Yeah, but hey, we got Dallas underneath them too. That we just said should make the playoffs, and so they played 14 games this season. John Morant is one of my favorite players in the league. His point guard ability. He's going to be a top 5 player in the NBA at some point in his career. Undoubtedly, in my opinion, I think he's an incredible talent. But right now, for where they are, they're sitting at 8-6. Even teams behind them like that are 10-8, I'd put them ahead of them. Even 11-9, 11-9, and so they haven't played enough games. Without Triple J, they don't have their second star. It's hard to give them media attention outside of Ja Morant. But damn, Ja's an incredible player, and it's really showing this year.
I said it last week, and I'll say it again. A healthy Grizzlies team is a playoff caliber team.
Yes.
The problem is the West is so deep this year that there are going to be some playoff caliber teams that don't make the playoffs, which is really unfortunate because there's probably about 10 or 11 teams in the West that I think are good enough to be playing in postseason basketball. And that's what we said at the beginning of the year too. There's just so many good teams this year that a lot of good teams are going to get left out. I mean, when they get Jaren Jackson back for good and they got Ja playing, I wouldn't rule Memphis out of the playoffs yet. I unfortunately think like the Knicks, they might be on the last team on the outside looking in maybe, but just like they were last year. But don't be surprised if they make the playoffs because Ja Morant's a hell of a talent, and as like we talked about all this last week with the supporting cast and how good they've been, a lot of late round steals. So figure we can move on unless you have something else to say. But watch out for the Grizzlies.
Yeah, the last thing I'm going to say is the only upside for the Memphis. We just said that they're probably going to be a team that falls outside the playoffs. They're 8-6 right now. Without Ja Morant, they are 3-5. Ja Morant says they are 5-1 right now without Ja Morant or with Ja Morant. Dylan Brooks has been playing well. Jonas Valanciunas has been playing well. Their draft steals have been playing well. Yeah. If Ja Morant is really the player that we say he can be already, I'm gonna have to put them as a very, very low seed in the playoffs or right outside it. Right, thank you. But until they get Triple J back, it's hard for me to take this team over teams like even the Spurs and the Warriors and the Suns.
For sure. Moving on. Yeah, for sure. Moving on, as you said before about the Rockets, let's talk about them. The Houston Rockets are a team that I've been wanting to talk about for a while now because this is a team that is just fascinating me since they've traded James Harden. Right now, in the Western Conference, they're sitting at 10th with a record of 9-9, sitting at 500. But keep in mind, they have won 5 in a row, and they have the highest defensive rating in the entire league since trading James Harden. John Wall, Victor Oladipo, Boogie Cousins have all been balling since the trade, and Christian Wood is still, to me, a top 6 or 7 center in the league this season.
Yes, all-star Christian Wood.
Do the Rockets deserve to be talked about more? Are people underreacting on them?
I'm gonna let you take this one. You haven't taken one tonight, so this one's all you.
Don't have a strong opinion?
It's tough for me, so I want to hear what you have to say before I make my opinion.
Okay. Look, as we just talked about with the West, there are so many good teams out there, so much talent, right? If you're looking at just pure talent in the West, the Rockets are unfortunately probably a bottom 3 or 4 team, pure talent-wise.
Yes.
But, I mean, I've been watching them play a little bit since Harden's trade, and this is a good team of basketball players, and they play well together, which is not something I expected coming in the middle of a trade. It's like their team chemistry just shot the hell up once Harden left. And they play so well as a unit that I'm really excited to see what this team can do. They remind me a lot of a Miami Heat team from last year that if they slip into the playoffs, that is scary for me as a top seed. That is scary because this is a bunch of guys playing with chips on their shoulders, looking for something to prove. I mean, John Wall, Victor Oladipo, and DeMarcus Cousins, people thought they were on their way out this league as soon as this season. And they're playing well together as a unit. I think Oladipo especially has been having a great season. I've been really excited watching him play. It's the best I've seen him play since I think
Houston, oh, it's
2018.
amazing.
Yep. Yeah. I don't think you can count this Rock. I know I've been saying that about like literally every team in the West and even in the East too, but you can't count this Rockets team out. They play really well. They play really good defense, and it's a bunch of veterans who know what they're doing. So they remind. Also, I said Miami, also an OKC team from last year. I think that could surprise people. Not necessarily having Chris Paul, but having veteran leadership. I think like John Wall and Oladipo and them. Don't count out the Rockets.
Yeah. Real quick. I want to talk about the Rockets. So the Hornets beat the Heat, 129-121 in overtime, which was crazy. LaMelo Ball had a couple good plays in that overtime, so I'd like to. He'll be a superstar. No, going back to Houston. You pretty much covered everything with the players, but one really one thing I want to talk about is Steven Silas. He got thrown into one of the worst places you could head coach that we thought in the beginning of the season. I thought the John Wall trade was going to be beneficial for them, and I think it ended up being beneficial for them. But the whole Harden thing that happened, I mean, coaching through that and having players in press conferences literally say, like, I want this player out, and then that player saying, I want to leave. That's so hard to have to go to practice and coach a team like that. He stuck through it. The team, the higher up guys finalized that roster for them. And he said, you know what? We got a bunch of players that have talents, and I'm going to utilize them to their ability. He gave Victor Oladipo the day he came to Houston the keys to shoot whatever shot he wanted. And he's looking incredible with it. I think his first game back, he had like 32 and 8 or something. He had a remarkable game for them. John Wall, man. John Wall's looking better than Russell Westbrook. I'm sorry. I love John Wall this season.
Not last night,
but he's playing with a chip on his shoulder. He's getting guys involved, and he's doing it on a team that wants. Christian Wood, all-star center. The Detroit Pistons are kicking themselves for not re-signing him to what the Rockets got for him because, oh my God, it's such a steal.
The Sixers are kicking themselves. As a Sixers fan, they had him in 2017. It makes me cry. But he probably would have never developed with Embiid, so keep going.
That is true. No, I mean, he's averaging 24 and 11 right now. John Wall's averaging 6 assists on the season. He's averaging. I mean, even Eric Gordon, who I thought they were going to end up trading with Harden and averaging 17 points on solid efficiency. All he does is shoot threes, and he makes them every once in a while. I think he's going to be a Jordan Clarkson player. Eventually, they won't fall for a couple games, but I'll trust Eric Gordon right now to hit some open threes with the spacing of this team. And underrated guys like David Nwaba, who's getting another shot in the league. He's been on and off teams. He's getting shot. He's averaging playing 23 minutes a night for this team. He started half their games and is averaging 9 points and playing good defense. Jayshawn Tate, who neither of us knew who he was when I said that he was the starting point guard for the team when John Wall was out, getting 26 minutes a game and putting up 8 points and 5 rebounds. So they have these weird players that are chemistry-wise are working together. And I hope that they can for just NBA fans, I hope that they sneak into the playoffs to show that you can't give up on older guys and veterans like this. And this shows that veteran talent is really huge because they don't really have a lot of young guys, but you have veterans there. I'll take this team over a team like Memphis, honestly.
What if someone told you in like October that in February the Rockets will be on a 5-game winning streak led by John Wall, Victor Oladipo, and Boogie Cousins?
I mean, that's
you'd be like
amazing.
What kind of league is this?
It's amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
Steven Silas, shout out to you, man.
Along the same lines as the Rockets, two things that obviously will always go hand in hand. Whenever one is mentioned, so will the other. The Rockets and James Harden. My next underreaction is about Harden. I got 2 specific players I want to highlight. Harden is the first of those 2. James Harden is the only player in the league right now averaging double-digit assists, averaging 11.1. That would be the 3rd highest seasonal average of assists since 2008, with Rajon Rondo getting 2 in that time. Should that be talked about more? Is the media underhyping James Harden's playmaking ability right now?
No, I personally don't think it should be talked about more. just for the pure fact that, I mean, James Harden is a better playmaker than Kyrie Irving ever has been. So I would expect James Harden to be the top playmaker on this team. 11 assists. I mean, you look at, I think probably 5 or 6 of those is to wide open threes by Joe Harris. Honestly, a couple of those are to Kyrie and a couple of those are to KD. Listen, he came onto this team. Even in his first game, he put up a triple-double. I would expect him to be the top playmaker on this team. 11 assists is great, but we're forgetting James Harden did this a lot in Houston, and people just forgot how incredible he was for the Houston Rockets. He's doing the same stuff he did in Houston on Brooklyn. But listen, playmaking to me is not an issue. We've seen all the ball movement in the world by the Steve Nash. Of course, Steve Nash's team is going to have good ball movement. I mean, it's Steve Nash and Mike D'Antoni. If Mike D'Antoni is not a head coach right now, which is just crazy. But no, when your defense is this bad, you can't really talk about those 11 assists, in my opinion. And they have other things they need to fix, because I think Kyrie Irving on any given night could have 11 assists. I think Kevin Durant on every given night could have 11 assists. James Harden's just the one who's bringing up the ball the most and passing the ball around. So listen, it's great and all for statistics and everything, but that's not the thing when you talk about the Brooklyn Nets that needs to be mentioned in the media. So I think it's an underreaction that people are going to look back on the season and be like, wow, especially if they win the championship, people are going to be like, wow, James Harden averaged like 25 and 11. Like, oh my God, that's an incredible year. But if you really watch the games, any of those guys could have 11 assists on any given night. So that's why I'm going to say shouldn't be the top media coverage thing.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I just think it's funny how James Harden, in my opinion, has gone from one of the most overrated players to one of the most underrated players in all of basketball.
Oh, yes, so fast.
Even as much as a couple months ago, people were calling him a top 5 player, 5, 6, 7. And I've always liked James Harden, but other than in 2018 when he almost beat the Golden State Warriors in the playoffs, I've never been much of a supporter of his. I always feel like he's struggled when it matters most.
Yep.
I still think he's an incredible basketball player, and I think the slander that he's been getting over the past couple of months is, I wouldn't say unwarranted, because I think he brought it a lot on himself, but I don't think he should be questioned as a player because of a lot of the off-the-court stuff. James Harden, when he steps on the court, will always be a top 10 basketball player in the league, and I don't think that has changed one bit since he's gone to Brooklyn. I think he just got to give the Beard his credit, because he's been a fantastic player. We don't know how much. I mean, we could have James Harden's prime for another 4 or 5 years if you really think about it. Who knows? He only just turned 30 pretty recently. So you never know with the Beard, but really, really big fan of his this year in Brooklyn. I always tend to like the players that are hated on by most others. So as everyone's respect for Harden, Juju's another one. Yeah, as everyone's respect for Harden goes down, mine goes up.
I like James Harden's playmaking ability. He gets the guys open. He's such a great isolation player that people forget that he draws everyone to him on the offensive side. When you're kicking the ball to top-notch shooters like Joe Harris, even TLC this year, Bruce Brown, Kyrie, and KD, it's so hard to not be able to play well in that offense. Defensively,
Steph Curry's
James Harden needs to step it up, but what were you going to say?
I was going to say Steph Curry is the only player in the league who draws more doubles than James Harden. So
yeah. And that says something.
And when you can draw doubles like that, that means that you can play make, because he always finds the open guy. Yeah, Harden's great. Moving on to my last underreaction, talking about another favorite of mine.
Oh boy.
Let's talk about a guy who media has completely abandoned in the last couple of months. Kawhi Leonard. This man is having
this is how we're gonna end it.
A 50, 40, 90 season, top 3 in the league in efficiency, best record in the league. And trust me, I've watched them when Kawhi doesn't play. That Clippers team is garbage without him. Tell me why Kawhi Leonard is not getting the love that he deserves.
I think it's because people expected this. And now that it's happening, people are like, okay, it's happening. Like last year, people expected the Clippers to win it, to be the favorites to win it all. Honestly, I think more people had the Clippers winning than the Lakers. They lost. People hated on them. Now that they're doing good, everyone's like, "Oh, Paul George is still playoff P." Paul George has been incredible. When we were doing our Start Bench Cup podcast, we were comparing him to like Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell. He is above them. But yeah, you guys want to say about PG?
his production's dipped a little bit in the last couple of games, but yeah, Paul George has been great still too. My one thing I wanted to say is right, if LeBron James was putting up these numbers, it would be the end of the world. He'd be easily unanimous MVP right now,
Unanimous
best
GOAT
player
of
of
all
all
time.
time. Go, yeah. Kawhi does it. It's he's not even top 5 in MVP odds right now in Vegas.
Crazy.
Not top
Crazy.
5. Best player on the best team, top 3 in efficiency, 50, 40, 90, top 15 in scoring. Still to this day, top 2-3 on-ball defender in the league. It's ridiculous, man. You always wonder why people always wonder why I like Kawhi Leonard so much, because this man does not get his respect.
Yes.
And it frustrates me so much. And every time I watch him play, he's always the best player on that basketball court. And it's sad to see him not get what he deserves. He keeps this up. I mean, if the Clippers end the season with the best record and he keeps this up, I think he deserves MVP.
That's fair. No, he does need to be getting more recognition for the way the Clippers are playing. The Utah Jazz have been getting so much recognition recently for the way that they've been playing. Yeah. The Clippers are better than them, and a lot of people much better team in my opinion. The Lakers. Listen, LeBron James is in the MVP race. I don't discredit how he's been playing. Kawhi Leonard has been playing a little bit better.
He's having a better season so far.
Yep. And so Kawhi does need the media attention that he's not getting. He'll casually put up 28 points, and people won't even have him in like he'll put up 28 and like 7 and 3 in a win on great efficiency, and people won't have him in their top 5 like players of the night that I see on some Instagram. And I'm like, what are you doing? Kawhi Leonard is the best player in this game. He put up the best numbers, and they won the game. Listen. You've been the Kawhi Leonard fan throughout his entire career. I've never been a big Kawhi Leonard fan, but this season, man, give that man his damn respect, because listen, it is regular season and anything could happen in the playoffs, as we saw last year with Kawhi. Or he could have a Toronto Raptors run, and next thing you know, they win the championship, and everyone's like, "Oh, Kawhi's better than LeBron again," and that's not going to happen until he wins.
Right.
It's crazy how much the media goes like this with the top players. I mean, Giannis right now is having a terrible season. He's averaging 25 and 11. Like, come on, guys. But yes, if we're going to talk about Kawhi, he is top 5 in MVP racing. He might be top, in my opinion, I'd probably put him top 3 or 4.
Top 3.
Probably top 3.
To me, if you can put Embiid, Jokic, Kawhi, any order you want. To me, I'm not going to really argue with it. To me, that's my top 3, though.
Yeah, so... No, Kawhi needs to get some more media attention, but he won't. And then guess what's going to happen? They're going to make the 2 seed. They're going to beat the 7 seed. They're probably going to make the Western Conference Finals. Hopefully they can do it this year. And then he'll start getting recognition for his play. Honestly, it's going to take that long.
Right now, I think Kawhi is expected to lose in the Western Conference Finals. I think that's the expectation for them. If the Clippers go all the way to the Western Conference Final, they win 50 games, they go to the Western Conference Final, they lose to LeBron. Everyone's like, okay, that's exactly what we expected you to do. You're never going to hear anything from Kawhi. The only way you'll hear something about Kawhi this year is, one, they lose in the playoffs before making the Western Conference Finals, because then it'll all be like it was last year. Kawhi's a choker, not on LeBron's level, all that stuff, right? Or they make the championship, and then it's all, oh, we were wrong about Kawhi. It's going to be one of those 2 things. And the only way Kawhi will get his respect is if they make or win the championship.
Yep. Real quick.
It's sad.
ESPN,
it's sad.
It is. ESPN came out with an article on ESPN Plus titled NBA Predictions, MVP Trade Deadline Moves, and Finals Matchups. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
In this, they had a little segment titled, Which Teams Are Most Likely to Make the Western Conference Finals, where the panel of the NBA analysts vote on who's going to make the Western Conference Finals, right? They had the Utah Jazz with a 23.1% chance, because it's out of 200% because of the 2 teams. Okay. Utah with a 23.1% chance. The Clippers were next with a 76.9% chance. If you do the math, that leaves 100%, which is going to the Los Angeles Lakers entirely. They have the Los Angeles Lakers at a 100% chance of making the Western Conference Finals. And to me, if you're going to put the Los Angeles Lakers as a 100% definite chance of making the Western Conference Finals, you have to have the Clippers right there underneath, right there, because they are just there, especially regular season. Kawhi Leonard's mad about last year. Paul George is pissed off about last year. Having the Lakers at 100% and the Clippers at 75%, and then the Jazz taking some of the Clippers 100%, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know what these ESPN analysts are saying, but
you know what? You know what? I take back everything I said now that I just think about it, because Kawhi were getting all the media last year, and then when they finally lost, it was like the biggest disappointment of all time. So you know what? Fine. Stay off of him. Don't touch my boy. Don't touch that team. Let them do their thing. Don't pay attention to them. That's fine, because then if they do collapse, it won't be a big deal. And if they do go all the way, then I'll be the happiest man alive.
Yeah,
Clippers, Sixers, I'm telling you.
We really hope. I think we hope for last year. We're hoping for a Clippers Lakers Western Conference Finals this year. Come on, please. Listen, I love Denver. I love Phoenix. Come on, Golden State. But I think we're hoping for a battle of the LA teams in those Western Conference Finals. And if a team like the Jazz Nuggets again take it from them, I'm going to be very disappointed. Unless Jokic makes it to the finals, then I'm going to be happy.
Because there's only one team out west who can beat LeBron and the Lakers in a 7-game series, and it's the Clippers. Yes. And it's because Kawhi has proven himself to be the only person in the league who can, I won't even say stop LeBron, who can hold LeBron back. He's the only one.
Okay. I thought you were going to say beat LeBron. And I was like,
no, he's the only one. He's the only one who at least for me, can noticeably tell that LeBron plays worse when Kawhi is guarding him. To me, I don't think there's a single other player in the league that I can say that about.
I completely agree.
So,
I
pulled this up like 5 minutes ago, but then we got away from the conversation. But I do want to mention it. This was the Clippers starting lineup the other night against the Heat when Kawhi and Paul George didn't play. Don't ever tell me again Kawhi has helped. Nicholas Batum, Terrence Mann, Serge Ibaka, Reggie Jackson, Luke Kennard.
Hey, Luke Kennard's been playing good. Put some respect on Luke Kennard's name.
Yes, that's all I got. Sorry, I had to make my last one of the night about my favorite player.
That's fantastic. That's a good way to end it, especially with talking about a team that doesn't get a lot of media attention. But on Backcourt Press NBA Talk, we will give the Clippers the respect that they deserve. And so there you go. There's over predictions and under predictions of some of the NBA teams and stuff happening in the NBA so far this season. It's been a fantastic NBA season. We kind of came up with this idea on the dot, on the spot. I texted him earlier. I was like, hey, podcast later? Zach was like, sure. I was like, okay, what on? And we thought of this, and next thing you know. So if anyone has any ideas about or anything you guys want us to talk about, please send me a tweet, message me on Facebook or on my Instagram. Or if you know us personally, just text us. We'd love to hear any of you guys' suggestions. And real quick before we finish off, I had one thing I want to talk about. My outfit. So I am rocking. I'll stand up so then everyone can see it. It is a John Chaney signed Temple basketball jersey. It's actually got a signature. I'd like to say thank you to my girlfriend for getting me this, because it was a very, very sweet gift from her. But it was crazy. This jersey's probably going around for a lot more than it was when she bought it for me during Christmas, just because of his passing.
I know, the timing.
I feel so bad for the seller. But rest in peace to John Chaney. Zach and I both, we really respect any sort of basketball coach or anyone who runs a front office, unless your name is Luke Walton or Brett Brown. No, I just want to talk a little bit about this guy because I go to Temple University. I actually cover Temple men's basketball, and the legacy that this man right here brought to Temple basketball is incredible. He coached at Temple University for 24 seasons from 1982 to 2006. In that time, we made the NCAA tournament 17 times. Temple basketball, I don't know if they've made it since because of the impact that John Chaney has had on it. In 1987, 1988, we were the number one ranked team in the final AP poll. And there's some cool stories that I'd like to talk about with Coach John Chaney. So probably the most famous one is John Calipari, the head coach for Kentucky. John Chaney had a problem with the way his recruiting was, and he thought that Calipari's recruiting and scouting was a little sketchy. And so during a press conference, actually, after they lost to Kentucky, John Chaney went into the press booth with all the reporters there and threatened to kill John Calipari in front of all the media reporters. And security had to hold him back because he was that passionate about cheating and just how the game of basketball is supposed to be played. And some stuff, I think that's one of the you could look it up on YouTube. Just look up John Chaney threatening John Calipari, because it's a pretty funny video to see. And I'm on the rowing team here at Temple, and my head coach actually met John Chaney when he was the coach here for Temple basketball. And he told us, cruise a very early morning practice schedule where some days we got to wake up at 5:30 for 6:00 practices. Well, our coach gave a talk about how there was this one day where, or actually for a whole season, we'd go in to get attendance and get on the bus and everything. It's 5:30 in the morning. John Chaney already had his basketball guys practicing for an hour. They were practicing basketball at 4:30 in the morning. And the reason he did that, Temple's not in the greatest area of Philadelphia. A lot of the time before the past recent years, we've only been recruiting guys from in the Philadelphia area because it's very easy to do that. The Philadelphia area is not great. There's a lot of drugs, violence, all this stuff that happens in Philly. It's a great city, I will admit that, but in some parts of the city, it can get rough. And so to keep his guys off the streets and make sure that they were doing well academically, he kept them working and made them wake up at 4:30 in the morning, would work their asses off until they had academics, and then they'd come back for another practice later in the day. And so John Chaney deserves so much respect. He was a 2001 Hall of Fame inductee, which is incredible. He deserves to it. He died of an unspecific illness, which at the age of 89, rest in peace to John Chaney. And just shout out to him. He was such an incredible coach. And if anyone wants to look him up, please, I've learned a lot about him just over the past week. I got this jersey without really knowing much about him. So I did a lot of research, and you'll learn a lot of cool stuff about head coaching. And for me, I want to get into coaching when I get older. So I've been looking at some of his stuff. And, if any viewers are out there, just wanted to say rest in peace to John Chaney. And that's the reason I'm wearing this jersey. So quick little rant. Sorry about that to end it. I know this is an NBA podcast, but I wanted to stick with the present day times. So that will now wrap it up for today's podcast. Today's Backcourt Press NBA Talk. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Backcourt Press. On Twitter, I believe it's Backcourt Press _ because some dumbass took Backcourt Press already. So thanks for that.
Wait, really?
On Twitter it is, I believe. Press. So.
Oh, on Twitter. Oh,
yeah, on
okay.
Twitter. And so, yeah, thank you for all the viewers that had us. Ziad, my dad, Evan, Amir, you guys really did contribute to today's talk. Thank you, obviously, to I-95 Sports Network for having us as normal. And thank you to Bobby Blackjack, as always, for having us. And so that will wrap it up for today's podcast. We will see you guys sometime in the next week with more present day NBA talk.
Have a good one.